patient that week must be in sideline because it's briefer, and then knee are flexed to give the stability.
Rolling from side lying. So the first one, the patient must be in side lying and knee flexion. Physiotherapy using her body weight give forward pressure to the patient pelvis over the gluteus maximus, and then command the no push to the patient to move the pelvis backward.
Roll to the left side. So the patient will be using the right arm and have a three ways. So the first one is shoulder flexion or extension pattern. The patient will stay across space, press the top edge of the mat or head of the bed and pull. Number 2, shoulder extension or adduction pattern. Patient raises across body, grabs the side edge of the mat or bed and pulls. Number 3, shoulder extension, abduction, elbow extension pattern. Patient place hand on the waist level and push. So for the leg, the patient using the right leg and then hip flexion, adduction, also knee flexion pattern. And then number 2, hip extension or abduction with knee extension pattern. Patient flex hip and knee and place foot on the mat lateral to midline. Thrust extending both the hip and the knee.
This is combination of shoulder flexion or extension pattern with hip flexion, adduction with knee flexion pattern. Combination of shoulder extension or adduction pattern with hip flexion adduction with knee flexion pattern. Then, combination of shoulder extension, abduction and elbow extension pattern with hip flexion, adduction and knee flexion pattern. So for this video, the patient flex hip and knee and place the foot on the mat lateral to the midline thrust, extending both the hip and the knees with the shoulder flexion or extension pattern. And then the hip and knee same as before, and the shoulder extension or adduction pattern. And the last one is shoulder extension, abduction and elbow extension pattern with the hip and knee and place foot on the mat lateral to the midline thrust. Roll to the right side using left arm and have a two ways, which is the first one is shoulder flexion extension pattern and number 2 is shoulder extension adduction pattern. Using left leg, the first one hip flexion adduction pattern either with a straight leg or a flex knee. Number 2, hip extension or abduction pattern with either a straight leg or a standing knee. This video, the patient reach for the top edge of the mat or head of the bed, grabs and pulls, and then the knee is the flex enough and patient should create enough momentum to have the strong to rotate. Then the patient reach for the side of the mat or bed and grabs and also pull it. For the hip and knee, it must be flexed and patient should create enough momentum to have strong to rotate. Then the patient flex at the hip and knee and place the leg in a lateral position. Then push with leg and rolls over. And then the patient reach for the top edge of the mat or head of the bed and grabs and pulls it. The last one, patient reach for the side of the mat or bed and grabs and pull it. And the hip and knee in the same position. Rolling from prone to supine line. The position, head, extending the head and turn it to the right. Patient is assisted in rolling to the left. Arm, by placing the right arm in the position with the hand flat on the mat or bed and thirsty. Patient will be assisted in rolling to the left. And then, by placing the right arm of flexion or adduction with sufficient elbow flexion to allow the palm of the hand to be placed on the mat or bed. And the last one is leg, by raising leg or backwards into the inner range of the hip extension or adduction pattern.
Hi guys, now I'm gonna explain about bridging. For the starting positions, pelvic raising from the crook line positions. Before attempting to bridge, patients must be assisted to maintain starting positions by rhythmic stabilizations or tapping. PT positions herself in standing facing patient with her feet astride his raised knees. She then flexes her hips and knees with her own knees. For the second one, positions, PT places her thumbs inside the waistband of patient's trousers at the level of the seam. These positions enables her either to resist patient's bridging activities by pressing on the edges or to assist him to lift his hips by taking a firm grip of the trousers and through them to control the pelvis. And for the fourth one, bridging may be done either sideways with rotations or straight by simply lifting the buttons straight off the mat. When asking patient to do the former, PT exerts pressures on one axis and instruct patient to raise hip and hold it for 5 seconds. For the fourth one, patient may then return to the starting position or while in the bridging position. PT gives alternating pressures first on one side and then on the other side. For straight raised pressures is exerted on both hips simultaneously. Here are the steps to strengthen trunk rotators. With patient in the bridging positions, pelvis raised, the PT uses the rhythmic stabilization RS technique working on the rotators. PT hands are placed one over the axis and the other one on the opposite buttock. Hands are tossed in a one position. Now, to strengthen hip abductors and adductors, PT places each other of her hands on the lateral aspect of the appropriate knee. She resists the movement of abduction with lateral rotation. She then places her hands on the medial aspect of the abducted knees and resists adduction with medial rotation to midline. And last but not least, to strengthen hip abductors and adductors, with patient in the bridging positions, places a ball between their knees. Gently squeezes the ball for 10 seconds to apply pressure and strengthen their inner thigh muscles.
For the starting position, the patient will roll into a prone lying position, and then the physiotherapist will stand astride the patient's upper body facing towards the patient's head. To lift the patient onto the right elbow, physiotherapist will place her left hand under the patient's clavicle and lift the shoulder off the mat. With her right hand, she will adjust the patient's arm so the elbow is directly under the shoulder. After putting the patient in the starting position, the physiotherapist will do a balance test for the patient. So now, creeping forward, physiotherapist will stand behind the patient and hold their feet. Physiotherapist will resist as the patient moves the leg into flexion, abduction, and lateral rotation. The patient is told to move the arm into flexion and abduction and to turn the head towards the moving limbs. And the progress is made by alternating full flexion at one side. So creeping backward is basically the reverse of forward creeping. So instead of pushing forward the arms and leg, the individual will push their body backward. For the starting position for crawling, the patient will roll into a prone lying position. Physiotherapist will stand astride the patient's upper body facing towards the patient's head. To lift the patient onto the right elbow, the physiotherapist will place her left hand under the patient's clavicle and lift the shoulder off the mat. With her right hand, she will adjust the patient's arm so the elbow is directly under the shoulder. Shortly after that, the physiotherapist would do a balance test for the patient. The patient is up into full prone kneeling. Physiotherapist will lift the patient's right shoulder using her left hand placed on the collarbone from behind. Physiotherapist will support the patient's right elbow with her right hand and guide the arm straight so the patient can place their hand on the mat. If the patient can fully straighten the wrist or fingers, a sandbag can be used under the hand. This can help the patient to weigh on the arms and develop a protective extension reaction. After the patient is fully prone kneeling,